There are those people that walk into a room and instantly pull you in. Ricky Carruth is one of those people. See, his charisma hits you first. His honesty will keep you listening, but his story is what keeps you in. We talk about his childhood on the Gulf Coast of Alabama, all the way through roofing houses and working on an oil rig, even through the crash where he lost everything and had to rebuild it back into what it is today. If you want to know why people follow Ricky the way they do, this episode explains it. You won't want to miss it.
It took me 8 months to get to my first deal, and I made $1 million pretty quickly. I crashed and lost everything. They took the cars back, they took the homes back, had to file bankruptcy. We were in the safety meeting, and all of a sudden this dude comes in. His whole hand was like filleted back, just white. It was a white meat. We broke up on a Saturday, and then that very next Saturday was the day that I almost died. I had to borrow $500 from my dad just to make it through. Closed 2 deals on the same day, and then the rest is kind of history. TV interviews, conferences, podcasts, growth of my socials. There's no doubt in the world I'll be the biggest name in real estate.
Is that an actual surfboard back there, or is that just like it's a decoration?
It's decoration.
Surfboard? Oh, okay.
It's decoration. Yeah, my assistant got that for me. I used to kite surf. We don't have waves here on the beach.
Kite surfing? Okay.
Yeah.
Where would
on
you
the
kite surf?
On the beach.
Okay.
Yeah. The Florida beaches come into Alabama. It's about a 40-mile stretch of white, sandy, beautiful beaches, $1 million condos, palm trees. That's where I live.
That sounds terrible.
That's
yeah. It's actually an island, and nobody really knows about it. But we have more visitors that come here every year, tourists, than Hawaii. We have about 8 million visitors a year that come here.
Wow.
Yeah. So my real estate career was selling beachfront condos in Alabama.
That's a great place to start. So I get an opportunity to talk to a lot of big industry types such as yourself. As we've been working at Rayse and thinking about the positioning of the product, we always realized that what we're trying to do over here is build a conduit between agents and their clients, a way for clients to be able to see what their agents do, to provide some clarity. And we really have always narrowed in on the story of an agent or the story of the client. And so we want to use that as a springboard to talk with you today about the human side of what it is that you do and how you ended up with all this organic following, which is so amazing. But, we've done our background on you, and you've had what Tom likes to call a very storied background.
That's the thing is I've done some cool things in my life, and I think most people have, but you talk to two guys like the two of you who are like that just had the most interesting lives. Like, and we'll get into this, Ricky, because ultimately we want to hear where did you come from? Where did you, how did we get to where we are today?
How about we start here? Who was your hero when you were younger, that you really looked up to?
I had a pretty unique situation. I didn't realize how fortunate I was. We grew up completely poor, but my dad owned a roofing business and my mom owned a hair salon. So they both owned their own businesses. So I got to see business owners operate. And then on the flip side, they both were basically the workhorse of their businesses. So dad was on the roof laying shingles, and my mom was in the hair salon cutting the hair. So they owned their business, but they also were kind of the blue collar worker of the business. And so it was really interesting, as I look back, that I was exposed to two business owners who were hard workers. And then to take it a step further, that kind of molded me into, the Ricky, is my dad was a really hard worker and my mom was more of a big dreamer. And when you think about hard workers and big dreamers, hard workers don't really want to risk everything that they worked for. So they're very conservative. And the big dreamers, they're more apt to take huge risks. They're not as conservative because they feel like they're going to hit this one big thing with their big dream idea sooner or later, and all their dreams are going to come true. And so think about it. I was exposed to business owners who were the workers in their business, one being a super conservative, like the hardest worker in the room, the other being this incredibly massive dreamer with these big dreams. And it molded me into who I am today because I work hard, also dream really big, owned my own business, was a single agent forever, the hardest worker in my business. If you look at how, my life has kind of turned out, it's really obvious how it all came to be based on who my parents were. So when you think about a hero, it'd really be my parents, because I always looked up to how hard they worked and how big mom dreamed and how, by the book dad was in terms of like have to provide for the family and things like that. So
Yeah.
when I think back through my childhood and everything, I'm super fascinated by kind of what I was exposed to without realizing that I was being exposed to it.
Can you think of a moment? Can you draw a connection from today to a specific moment, either something your dad did or something your mom did or something you did together? Is there a picture in your head that you can describe for us?
Yeah, like my dad had my brother and I on roofs. I remember cleaning up job sites when we were 8 years old. We couldn't get on the roof at that time, but we were cleaning up the nails and the trash around the construction sites and the houses that they were roofing. And I remember he had huge crews. He had 8 to 10 people up there on the roof working. And we were down there cleaning up the job site. And then by 12 years old, by that time we'd been on the roof a couple times and, started to do little things, handing them shingles and things. And next thing you know, by 12 years old, we're laying shingles. We're up there with the nail gun, blasting shingles up the roof and laying metal roofs, flat tar roofs, gravel roofs, decker roofs, standing seam, all the kinds of roofs that you can imagine. We were exposed to knowing how to do those kind of roofs at a really young age. That work ethic really kind of ingrained something really deep in me that kind of drives me to even this day.
I can't help but think of my own anecdote when you're talking about that. My grandfather sort of provided me the same type of upbringing. He was an old school rancher. He was, tough as nails. Like, when you were in school and you would always play the game, like my dad's more tougher than your dad, or my dad could beat up your dad, or any of that kind of stuff. It wasn't that for me. It was always my grandfather. My grandfather was made of oak. His father chewed on poison oak, dried poison oak branches so that he could build up immunity so that when he was, cutting down bushes and all that kind of stuff, like he didn't get poison oak, or he would chew on willow branches because it has natural aspirin in it. Like, that's who he is. But to draw a parallel.
Man, dude, we were in middle Alabama, and I remember dad, he would cut trees. We would ride with him in a dump truck that he had bought, and he would cut these trees, chop them up into firewood, and go to the parking lot of a Sam's Club or a Walmart or something and sell this firewood on the side of the road. My dad, I had a football scholarship to a school called Missouri Valley College in Marshall, Missouri. And I went there for a year or so. He ended up coming up there for a little while. And there was this tree in the middle of town that 3 or 4 tree cutting companies tried to cut down, as huge crews tried to attempt to cut this tree down, but they couldn't do it. It was such a scary tree. There were houses around the tree and stuff like that. My dad showed up one day by himself, single-handedly, looked like a squirrel. The whole town stopped and we're all gathered around watching this dude. He has the rope tied to him. He's climbing this tree like a mountain climber with his chainsaw, and just he dismantled this tree in about 20 minutes. It was the wildest thing that I've ever seen. There's tons of stories like that about him. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
If I was to draw everything down into a one word, what that experience of my grandfather, and I assume you could draw parallels here, but teaching me how to drive a big stick, truck, a big giant dump truck at the age of 11 years old, or teaching me how to, build foundations or work on the ranch or just whatever. There was so much confidence building. And, just that, what, do this thing. It doesn't, who told you couldn't do this thing? Yeah. And just teaching you how to use your hands and actually get in and do the darn thing or whatnot. I mean, confidence is such a necessary virtue, to be taught. And I'm wondering if that's how you felt about both of your parents, that you just
my parents made me think I could do anything. My mom always, because she was the big dreamer, she always, with so much confidence would always say you could do anything. Like, and
Yeah.
there was no doubt in her mind. She believed it in her soul that I could do anything I put my mind to. And my dad, I remember coming home from school one time. I hopped in his roofing truck there at the end of school, showed him my report card. I was like, I don't know what grade I was in. I think middle school, and had all A's, maybe one B or something like that. And he was like, "Son, you gonna live over there on Ono Island? Ono Island's this island in Alabama. It's like an island off the island that's like just rich people." But yeah, absolutely, they gave me that confidence. A few things I was really good at in school was math. I always felt like I could just really. I was just natural at like figuring things out mathematically.
Yeah.
And I remember like trying to invent things, taking things apart, like alarm clocks and stuff like that, and taking them apart, trying to invent things out of them. I remember I tried to or not try to invent, but build my own like scuba diving tank to breathe underwater.
Oh, cool.
Things of that nature.
That
And
seems dangerous to try and build yourself.
Well,
It does.
I was literally like testing it out and stuff in like 4 foot of water, so it wasn't like I was deep diving. But I remember like doing things like that. My mind was like always like trying to like create things. When I was about 10, I had this premonition that I would become really great at something, and then take whatever that something was and make a lot of money, and then turn around and use the money to help people. And I thought about this when I was really, really young. That was kind of my plan. I didn't know it was going to be real estate. I didn't really know anything. I just remember I was learning how to play guitar, and I remember how much power it seemed like guitar players had, rock stars had. And I thought, wow, what could they do with all that, power and fame and fortune? And I thought, man, if I became really great at something like that and used that to make money, and then use that money for the good of the world, that's kind of what I want to do in life. And so when I didn't know if I wanted to do real estate. I went to 4 different colleges in 2 years. I flunked out of a history class at University of Alabama, and I went to Shelton State next door and got my real estate license. Still didn't know if I wanted to do it. And I ended up going through with it, and ended up being kind of the catalyst, kind of the thing, and it became really great at that thing to turn right around and make a ton of money, to turn around and help as many people as possible.
You mentioned playing a guitar. So now inevitably when we do these with these little chats, we end up in something music, which you may or may not know about me. I came up heavily in the music industry and film and television, and that's where I really crafted a lot of my expertise around storytelling. But tell me about, is guitar playing, do you still play the guitar? Is that your only instrument? And who are your musical influences?
So I actually played clarinet at middle school. So I did. So I played clarinet, and then I got into the guitar, and I really focused on it. And I played guitar for like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years, and played in a couple of different bands and a couple of different things. It was fun. And that kind of went away as I kind of, got to like, I guess halfway through college, I was more focused on like football and career, and it kind of drifted away. I don't really play. I still have it. My wife was asking me actually 2 nights ago, do you still have your guitar? Because Whitley's never heard you play the guitar. We have a 6-year-old.
That's
and,
amazing.
She actually has heard me play when she was a little baby, but I haven't played in forever. So I was thinking about getting it out the other day. So it's funny you mentioned that. But no, I don't really play anymore. I grew up on like I really loved older bands like The Doors and Jimi Hendrix and Leonard Skinner and Allman Brothers and Pearl Jam, all those kind of bands, Nirvana. That was all in my jam. Still is.
Yeah. Was music part of your life growing up? Or did your mom and dad play a lot of music? Were they into it?
Mom and dad it wasn't really a big thing with them. I mean, there was music going on in the house, but it wasn't like they didn't play, they didn't sing, they didn't do anything like that. My dad actually did mess around on a guitar, but more so I had family members like uncles. Like I've got an uncle that's an incredible guitarist, and he had a whole career playing all over the place. He's amazing. So I had a couple of uncles that were musicians and stuff. So that kind of inspired me a little bit too.
I have a guitar. Actually, I don't know if you can see it. It's right.
Oh yeah, there
Right
it is.
there. But I know how to strum, but I don't actually know how to play any music. So it's like that. I love the music conversations because I would love to learn. But Christian, you were in a band. Well, first off, Ricky, what was your band's name?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't really remember.
Okay.
We created it ourselves. That's how long ago it was. We actually wrote songs, and it's horrible because if we would have done that in today's world, it would have all been in the cloud, and we would have those. We went to a recording studio. We did this whole thing. We paid money, and we had our CD, but we don't know where the CD is. And like back then, there was no cloud, there was no thumb drives, there was no any of that stuff. Do
you have some photos at least? Because we're gonna have to see those.
You know what? I actually have a video. I do have a video of our high school talent show where we played. Yeah. I do the whole thing, play with one hand, do this. It's pretty cool video, but we have that.
Okay. Yeah. The more conversations we have, everybody seems to have that musical talent. It's like we're just building the band the more of these conversations we have. Christian, when was the last time you played?
Yeah, we should create like a Rayse, Raise the Roof, or something. Like a band.
I haven't played any real instrument other than, over here on the DJ tables every now and again for a long time. I think my piano is still in storage. I gave my bass guitar away to one of my buddies. I don't know. I've kind of moved through life and done a million things and kind of do them to a certain point and then put them down and move on to the next thing. It's kind of been always my way to go about it. But I do miss the piano.
Okay. Yeah. I never did do piano. I was always curious about it, but I never progressed to that level.
Yeah, something my grandmother actually taught me. So I would spend a lot of time, as I mentioned my grandfather before, and they had a big ranch, and I'd spend a lot of my summers there. And my grandmother would teach me piano, and that would be at night. But all during the day, it would be get up and go work with grandpa and, on the tractor or build a fence or something or other. So that was a lot of my summers, which was really great.
My grandfather, he did the same thing. We were laying pavers, his entire driveway and the entire backyard. And he was like a super handy guy that way. He built everything himself, but he did the same thing. And it was maybe 3 days. My brother and I, because I have a twin brother, we laid pavers out, and the lesson afterwards was remember this feeling because you're going to work hard in school or you're going to be working this hard for the rest of your life. So just remember that feeling. And that was the lesson that we got from having to do all that.
That's what I tell real estate agents, actually, because a lot of them complain about making calls or, I'm like, well, there's plenty of roofs that need roofing. There's plenty of hamburgers that need flipping. There's plenty of yards that need cutting. There's plenty of other things to do if you don't like sitting in an air-conditioned, a controlled environment, just sitting down, that's one thing that gets me is like agents really take it for granted.
I really resonate, by the way, with your mom and dad. My grandfather, again, taught me the hard working, but I don't know where I exactly got it, but I've always been the dreamer. So I've always tried to, dream big and then figure out how to build the road to get to that thing. So I had a pretty nice, cushy career going on in the music industry. I had a full studio. Was surrounded by really great people. We were making our name as a small boutique post house, and I was still mastering 60% of domestic electronic music. And so the studio was going well until 2008. When the crash happened, I lost my studio. We broke up, and there was trying to rebuild what the next life looked like for me wasn't just a professional act. I lost my identity.
Yeah. So in 2002, I got into real estate, and then it took me 8 months to get to my first deal. And then I made $1 million pretty quickly within about 2 years or so. And then everything started to just crash and burn. I was flipping houses. I bought two homes myself. I had a Hummer, a gold Hummer. I had a Cadillac CTS V.
Wow.
Like I was a real estate mogul. I was just like, this is it. And I didn't realize that it was a house of cards. And so when it crashed, I crashed and lost everything. They took the cars back. They took the homes back. I was negative, so I had to file bankruptcy. And so a friend gave me a Ford Contour, beat up too. It was like a 94 Ford Contour. And it was like you had to open up, you had to get in the passenger door, driver door wasn't open. I had to put a boombox in the back to listen to music. The running lights at night didn't work. So I had to kind of just ride the brakes just a little bit where it didn't initiate the brakes. It just turned those brake lights on when I passed cops.
Right.
So they thought that I had running lights.
Tell me you have a photo of that thing.
I wish. I was sleeping in this car in a Walmart parking lot. That's where I was living, and I couldn't go home to mom or dad because mom moved to Tennessee. So she lost everything as well, moved to Tennessee, and my dad lost his home, and he was living in an RV with his girlfriend. And so, like there wasn't anywhere for me in either of those places. So a lot of people say, "Why do you need to go home? Like, there's no way you're homeless. Why don't you just?" Yeah, I was. I was sleeping in my car. I was sleeping on friends' couches. I was eating out of people's refrigerators. Friends I grew up with. Their moms and dads' houses. We'd crash there and raid their refrigerator and stuff like that. But I mean, there was not one single day that I wasn't working.
Yeah.
So I just went back to Rayse, and Dad was working on an oil rig at the time. He had already left the business, went to work on an oil rig. And so I just went and started roofing houses with other roofers that I knew because we knew all the roofers. So that's kind of how I was like, okay, start there. It was funny because I was showing up basically as like this like millionaire real estate agent, and like I was showing up to roof houses. I still had the Cadillac CTSV. So I'm pulling up to the job site with the Cadillac CTSV, which is like this like it has this like really high-end looking grill. Like this is like a fancy car. It's a fancy car. And like I'm pulling up to the job site next to like the people that have like the most junky, like just work trucks and stuff like that. And I'm pulling up, like I got like tools in the trunk and stuff. Like it was a wild scene, and eventually lost the car. But I tell agents that are part-time that are at their full-time job that want to go full-time real estate so bad. They want to get out of their job. I said, okay, well, let's sit down and think about it. Right now, what do you do all day? Okay. You get up early, you go to your job, you work all day, you come home, you eat dinner, go to bed, do it all again. I said, when you go full-time real estate, what's your life going to look like? They're like, yeah, okay, well, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to work all day, I'm going to come home, eat dinner, do it all again. I said, your life is not going to be any different than it is now. You're just going to work all day. Same thing. It's actually going to be a little worse because you're going to own your business. You're going to have more responsibilities, and you're only going to get paid if you do stuff. It's going to be a little different, not to the good side in the beginning.
And you lose all the boundaries.
Yeah. So like if I lose everything today, and let's say like all the social medias go away and all the influence goes away and all the bank accounts go away and all the investments go away, I still wake up and have the exact same life I have now. I'd get up, I'd work all day, come home, eat dinner, go to bed, do it all over again. So that's the way I see it. It doesn't all this, this is just a game at this point. This is just how many people can I help before I die at this point. This is just legacy. This is how many generations of people can I create a positive influence for. So yeah, when I lost everything, it's funny because there were 40, 50, 60-year-olds going through the exact same thing I was going through. Hence what I just said about my parents. Well, there was tons of real estate investors that were investing with me and doing deals with me and using me as their agent that lost everything in their 50s, 60s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. And I was in my mid 20s. And so when it happened, I fell on my knees and thanked the Lord that I was going through what they were going through in my early 20s instead of when I was in my 40s, 50s, and 60s. And I knew that the lessons I would learn during that time would blossom into exactly what it is now, that I would come back and learn the lessons of whatever that was and come back and absolutely crush it. But I was like, at the bottom, I was like, okay, I'm the hardest working, most honest person, I know. Why did I lose everything I have? How did this happen? So I started reading books. I read about 100 books over the course of about a year or two. And I was in my car just reading books. And I eventually landed a job on an oil rig. So I went from roofing houses and serving tables. I was working 2 jobs. And then I went from that to to work on the oil rig. And it's a funny thing because the serving job, I was only working 3 nights a week because I couldn't handle anymore. I was roofing houses all day. And then I couldn't come in till like 5 o'clock because I was like, I got to leave the roof early. I can't come in at like noon. I'm like on a roof. But I went from there to working on the oil rig for about a year, the whole year of 2007. That was actually from May of 2007 to May of 2008. May of 2008 was the first closing I had coming back into the market. I was actually laid off in April from the oil rig. So I worked from April to April, worked 52 weeks, a week on, week off at an oil rig in Mississippi, land rig. You drive there, you live on the rig for a week, come back home. And it was cool because I thought on my weeks off, I'll get back into real estate. But that's not what happened, because on your weeks off, it takes you a week to recover from a week on the oil rig. And they mess you up too. Like 1 week you're working 6 in the morning, 6 at night. The next week you're working 6 at night till 6 in the morning. So you work the day shift or night shift. They alternate it every other week. So it takes a lot. Like, it's crazy what your body goes through.
Tom and I were just talking about this when we came at the beginning, and Tom is like, you know what? I think the only image I have in my mind about what life looks like on an oil rig is probably from the movie Armageddon. Tom is really excited about your time on the oil rig. So
I did want to ask, what did you do? Because that's what we picture. You met, it's like you got to take a boat out into the middle of the ocean and get on the rig, and then there's these huge wrenches. Like, what did you do on the oil rig?
Yeah, the huge wrench part. Yeah, that's what I did. But it wasn't on a boat. It was on land. So it was Mississippi. Okay. So we drilled holes all over the state of Mississippi, mostly around Hattiesburg. There's a place called Collins. We did a few in Jackson, Mississippi. And so we didn't have to take a boat or anything. We were drilling for natural gas, right? And I think we hit crude, like maybe one hole. There was a hole where we hit it was like half and half or something, but it was mostly natural gas that we were drilling for. So it took us about a month to drill a hole. And then we would have to basically pack up the rig, like break it all down, right? And then move it to the next location and then put it back together. And so it always took about a week to break it down and put it back together at the next location. And so it was like there's 3 weeks of drilling and then a week of moving the rig to the next location right down the road or whatever. And so it depends on what stage of the drilling you're in terms of like lining up with what week you're there. So like, are we just starting? Because when you're just starting, like you're just drilling because it's really the ground is really soft going down like several thousand feet. So it's really soft. So like you're just like you have to put the stands, they called it. It's 3 joints. Joints are the pieces of the pipe, and 3 joints make a stand, which is about 100 feet high. And then the machine drills that down on the ground. Well, in the beginning, drilling the hole, once you get all put together and start drilling, it goes really fast. Like it just like almost just like, sinks it down. You got to have another stand ready. So that was part of my job during that part, was like building those stands, getting them ready, getting them up on the rig floor so that we could connect it to the drilling, thing. And so we could drill down to the ground. But once you get down there several thousand feet, the ground starts to get harder. And it takes a lot longer for that thing to drill the stand down into the ground. Right. And so it just depends on what stage we're at. Are we breaking it down this week? Are we putting it back together? Are we, with the beginning of the thing? Are we towards the end of the hole? That kind of tells you kind of what you're doing. But yes. So when you get down there, okay, let's say you get all the way down there, we're like 500 feet away from where the target we want to hit. Well, that drill bit at the end of the pipe, it starts to get dull. And so like you got to pull all the pipe, all the thousands of feet of pipe out of that hole, and then get to the bottom to where we can just take that bit off and then put another drill bit on the end, and then have to get it all down in the hole again. It's called tripping pipe. During that period of time, like I would literally have one of those huge wrenches, right? And so they would just pull it up, and then I have to go in there and hook the wrench on, and then there's a cable like hooked to the machine, and it pulls 2 wrenches at the same time to either loosen that or tighten it, right? Depending on if we're going up or down. And then we have to grab that stand, and then somebody has to grab it and like push it over to the side where we stack them all up while we're pulling it all out, right? Or grab the next one and put it back on, and then it is a thing, man.
That sounds really dangerous. And not to continue to draw the parallel, but that does sound remarkably similar to Armageddon.
So when you get through, when you get done with a day there or night there, you are completely covered in mud from head to toe. You are completely covered in grease and mud, like your whole everything, right? You wear gloves, you've got boots, you got like a huge onesie, you got a helmet, you got glasses, you are completely covered. So they send you out to this thing in Tyler, Texas, where it's like a mock drilling rig and stuff to train you. Right.
Yeah.
You stay there with all the guys, you learn how to live with other guys and, then work on the rig and stuff. Well, they sent me straight to the real rig after that week. And we go in there and there's this safety meeting before every shift. There's a safety meeting, for like 15 minutes to talk about what we're doing and kind of go over like, okay, guys, be careful. Remember, don't put your hands here. Don't put your hands there. Like, let's be real thoughtful about what we're doing. Okay, guys, everybody go team. Well, we were in the safety meeting and all of a sudden this dude comes in holding his hand. He's like, Mike, you gotta take me to the doctor, man. And I remember he pulled the towel off of his hand and his whole hand was like filleted back. Like it was just white. It was a white meat. It was like his whole hand was like filleted back. He got the glove caught in this 10-inch pull. So there's like it's a 2-inch cable. Right. And like a little spur of the cable caught his glove and pulled his hand through a 10-inch pulley. And so those two fingers right here were broken because they went through the pulley, but then like it sliced all the meat off of his hand. So that literally I hadn't even been on the rig yet. Right. And this dude walks into the safety meeting that's coming off his shift as I'm fixing to go on and his hand is almost like gone. Right.
Yeah.
So then that whole week goes by. I'm kind of like learning everything and we're working on everything. So it's the very last day. We're about to leave in 30 minutes. So the whole week we were tripping pipe down and it was kind of the beginning of the hole. So there's this air hoist at the top of the platform where the drilling platform is. It's like, I don't know, 60, 70 feet in the air. And so I'm working this air hoist, which is they create the stands on the ground and use the air hoist. Somebody loops up a stand and I pull a lever to pull the stand up onto the rig floor so they can get ready to drill it down. Right. And so I was on that air hoist machine all night, helping them pull these stands up. Right. Well, somebody said, hey, Mr. Driller, there's this piece of metal up there 100 feet in the air that doesn't look right. He's like, oh, whatever. And like, he's just working, and they're just trying to get trying to drill pipe. Well, dude, 30 minutes, right? In between. So like I would pull a stand up. We would get the stand down. It would take about 20 minutes to drill it down before we had to do it again. During one of those 20-minute breaks, I was sitting in what we call the doghouse, which is right off the platform where people kind of sit or whatever and wait for the next thing to do. We were sitting there and all of a sudden, bam, this 200-pound piece of metal, this finger that's about, I don't know, like 9 feet long and probably like 12 inches wide, just solid metal comes down and literally just obliterates that air hoist machine that I had been on all night long. Just demolished it, you know? And like,
this is my life when things happen and you're like, the timing of that couldn't have been more perfect, but maybe somebody's looking out, This
is my first week. I saw a dude's hand basically gone and the air hoist machine that I was working on completely obliterated.
There was
a guy that actually died on a rig that was right down the road from us. The one of the machines they put together, like they didn't put it together right or something, and he was under it and it just like fell down on him and just killed him. But man, there were so many things. It was it was pretty wild out there. I think back like, man, why in the world did I do that?
Well, I think that's what we want to know. Why did you keep doing that?
Well, I was just such a hardcore person. I guess I just wasn't scared. I was just like, okay, whatever.
Have you always been calm under fire? Like, have you always just sort of had that mentality?
I did jujitsu and MMA for a while. I did jujitsu for probably 15-ish years. I did dozens of jujitsu tournaments all over the country. But then I did 2 MMA fights. The whole MMA thing in the cage, kickboxing, wrestling, the whole thing.
I like that. And I'll tell you what, I graduated college right after the or during the recession, and you get this nice shiny degree, and then you get out into the world, and all of it. I had enough experience to drive a truck for a couple of years, so I delivered chicken to markets and restaurants. But I'll tell you, there's something so satisfying about working with your hands. Just at the end of the day, you work for 8-10 hours. You're throwing boxes on pallets. At least it was for me, driving around the city. You get to meet cool people. And for me, it was just like there's something so satisfying about it. Not that I don't love my job, but it's just there is something about it. Do you love that about working with your hands, or is this one of those like it's I don't want to have to go back to that?
Yeah, I did. I loved roofing. I don't know if it's because I was born into it or what. But I loved it. Not so. I wouldn't say I would love to do it now.
Yeah.
I really love what I do now. Create content. I refer to myself as a content creator. Who coaches real estate agents. With content creation, it gives me the same satisfaction as working with my hands because I do it all. I post all the stuff. I think of all the ideas. I film all the stuff. I basically do all of it. I pay attention to the metrics so I can try to figure out what's working and what's not working, so I can double down on what is working, et cetera, et cetera. And I love that stuff. And it really gives me just as much or even more satisfaction than, working with my hands. It's working with my hands in a way. I'm just not out in the sun doing it.
A couple of quick questions. Did you say tripping pipe? Is that that was the term? Okay,
yep.
That's gonna be our band name, or at least the song that we make together. It's gonna be called Tripping Pipe. Yeah,
there we go.
And then you mentioned you read like 100 books. I'm just wondering if you have a standout book that was like, you know what, I could probably read this book 50 times and it still is as powerful as day one.
The most incredible, influential book that I read during that time was The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And it's really cool because he's one of the OGs. He's like back from the Tony Robbins days. He owned the People's Network. He had Zig Ziglar and Darren Hardy and like all the greats were part of his little organization and stuff. And he's just an incredible guy. We actually became friends and stuff because I was pushing his book so much. He reached out to me. That was one of the most incredibly powerful books that I read during that time. Since then, I've read so many incredible books that have changed everything about my outlook on everything. One of the most powerful is 10X is Easier Than 2X by Benjamin Hardy.
I've heard about that one. I haven't read that one yet. Man,
it's an absolute game changer. And he writes in a way where you can't put it down. And so then I kind of went down the whole line of his books, Be Your Future Self Now, The Gap in the Game, The Science of Scaling. Oh my gosh. It is one of the most powerful books that you'll ever read. But yeah, there were so many. 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. Like as soon as it came out in like 2012 or something, I read that. That was incredibly powerful. But yeah, I read a lot of really great books back then that transformed my entire outlook and my life. The years that I read, my business and life multiplies leaps and bounds. The years that I don't read, my life and business just plateaus wherever it was.
That's super interesting.
After I read those 100 books, I just took all that knowledge and started applying it, and I kind of quit reading for a while.
Yeah.
And it got me to a certain point, but I couldn't get any further. I kept bumping my head and I didn't really know why. And then I started reading again, and then all of a sudden, boop, 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 everything started getting better.
Hey, inspiration is a real thing. You got to draw it from wherever you can. So how did you begin your family?
Pretty crazy story. So I started working at Remax in 2010. It was the year of the oil spill. So we had the BP oil spill here. Funny because I worked on oil rig, and then when I came back, and we had the oil spill, and it created a mini recession down here. And I made more money that year than I did the year before because I applied the principles I learned through the crash. I was like, I can make it through any market. So that gave me the confidence to go to Remax, which is the number one company in the area. So I want to be the number one agent at the number one company. Well, that's where I met my wife. She was the assistant of the broker owner there. And come to find out, we actually went to high school together, but we didn't know each other because she was a sophomore. So when I was a senior, so we were like in the same. So we have a lot of the same friends. We have a lot of the same like high school friends and stuff, which is crazy. And we didn't know each other in high school at all. So 10 years later, really more than that, more than 10 years later, after high school, we meet at Remax.
Did you guys recognize each other immediately, or did you have to make that connection?
We didn't know.
Yeah.
We didn't know each other in high school. We had no.
Oh, wow.
We didn't know each other at all. Yeah. So we met there, and then it was like, well, we can't date. We work together. Like, you're the boss's like assistant and stuff. So we were just genuinely friends for a really long time. And honestly, I think that part right there is the reason why we are where we are, because we were literally like for real friends, where there was like boundaries and like, we're not going to cross this line for like a year.
Wow.
And so then when we actually started dating, we kept it a secret for a long time, because when they were still worried about how that would look. And so then eventually everybody just figured it out, when we were like, we're everywhere together type thing. But during that time, like, we would travel and like go to all these shows and festivals and different things. Like, we went to all kinds of stuff. Like, I can even remember all the stuff that we went to and did. It was crazy. And so we were actually, it kind of started like, let's go have a couple drinks. And so we would have drinks, and it was awesome, fun, hilarious. We danced, like the whole 9 yards. And so that, as we dated, that continued. And then after about a year and a half, like, it started to get really bad. We would go out and drink and fight. And then that got worse and worse and worse and worse, to the point where it was just like this explosion. And maybe, I don't know, what was it, 2 years into our relationship, we broke up. And then when we broke up, I was like, oh, I'm single again. And so I just went absolutely nuts every single night. And I remember it was exactly a week. We broke up on a Saturday. And then that very next Saturday was the day that I almost died, because I almost overdosed. I did way too much drugs, way too much alcohol. I was laying in my condo, and I was dying. I was like shaking, convulsing, my heart, all that stuff. And I remember looking up, and I remember I saw Jesus, and his hair was golden wrapped around me. And I closed my eyes and I said, if I wake up tomorrow, I'll never touch anything ever again. And that was March 30th, 2014. And so I woke up the next morning. I literally did not think that was going to happen. I had all kinds of stuff on my nightstand. I flushed it down the toilet. And up to that point, I had a drug problem. Like, I was addicted. I could not stop at all. Like, I would quit for an hour, couldn't stop. And so, but after that night, I flushed all that, and I've never touched a drop, a sip, a snort, a puff, anything. And I've never even had the urge to, right? It's like it completely just left me completely. So that next morning I wake up and I called her and I was like, hey, look, I almost died last night, and this is what happened. And, I'd really like to get together and, try to work things out. If not, I totally understand. So we did end up meeting up and talking and, working through it. And now, boom, we got back together, and now we have the most beautiful life. We ended up getting married in 2017. So 3 years after that, we had our daughter in 2019. She's 6 this week, actually 2 days from now, she'll be 6.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And so we live in like our dream home. We have our dream life. We have no worries. And, all of our, her mom and dad, my mom and dad are all real close by, within 5-minute drive and stuff. We live close to the beach where we grew up. And so we have the one child. And
what has she taught you, being 6 years old?
Well, it's hard to get mad at her, even when she does something, weird. It's like, she does something and I'm just like, we're going to figure this out. We'll figure this out kind of thing, so she's taught me patience. She's taught me, how can
Ricky,
I say
I gotta tell you an observation I just made in this moment. Through all of these stories, the Ricky has always been full on, like, and if we were going to draw a thread through all of this, like, it's very clear when you've made a decision to go somewhere, you're going full on, you're going to go all the way in, all the way full on. But, as I was just asking you about your daughter, what she teaches you for the first time, at least in this little discussion, there's I just saw a little peek of this other side of the Ricky where he's like, okay, we're going to let things just like be okay and cool. And like, my daughter gets that space where we're just going to figure it out and we're going to let this be organic and like whatever. And I just wanted to point that out. That was pretty awesome to see. And fathers of daughters.
Yeah.
Tom knows all about that. He's got 3 of them. So
which I did want to tell, I did have a question for you because I don't know, you can probably see them on the bookshelf. I've got 3 daughters, 8, 5, and 3. I've been pretty fortunate in my career that I've been able to travel and speak all over the country. And I know you do that as well. You get to go and talk. And I read that you take your wife and daughter with you. Now, I love my family, but I cannot imagine taking them all with me on a trip where I have to go and speak. I have to focus. So how do you do you do that? But what's that experience like?
No, that's a great question. I'm glad you brought that up. So I do like 2 or 3 a month. We travel. We just did in the last 3 weeks. We did Vegas, Miami, and New York. They were with me, through the whole thing. I'm going to Dallas. I'm going to sit down with Tom Ferry. We're going to do a podcast. We're going to have a private meeting. They're going to come. They come with me everywhere. And we normally take an extra day to just kind of explore different areas and stuff. So it's been really cool because we've gotten to really experience a lot of stuff really fast. And it's been really cool for my daughter because like I was 32 before I ever went to Disney for the first time. 32. She's 6 and she's been to Disney in Orlando like 20 times, and she's been to the one in California like 3 or 4 times,
Yeah.
It's pretty insane the stuff she's done. Been to Vegas multiple times, Manhattan, Puerto Rico, Miami, like you name it, and she has been there. I know what you're saying with like the focus of having to do the speech and like trying to, and so like sometimes the talk is kind of early in the next morning. I'm like, I gotta go to bed,
right.
And it's like they're still going. And I'm just like, oh man, normally like I can go in the other room on the other side of the house and actually like turn the light off and like actually get some sleep so I can prepare like, so I can have energy the next morning. But it's just something you have to deal with. And as far as like my talks go, this is do or die for me. I live and breathe this stuff that I talk about. It's all basic second nature for me. It just comes out. There's not a whole lot. The preparation for me is like, this is preparation. Like what I do every day, I'm studying the market. I'm talking about the market. I'm doing coaching calls. I'm making content. Like all that stuff is preparing me for the talks. And so therefore I don't really put like a lot of last minute effort into trying to prepare the talk or figure the talk out. I might make a little outline or know which direction I'm going in, but there's not a whole lot of worry for me that goes into it. I've done hundreds of talks at this point. And so it's pretty second nature. I know what you're talking about though, but them being there far outweighs any negative aspects of having them with me, because of the experiences that we get to have together. But having multiple kids would pose, and what's funny? So we got a puppy about, 3 months ago. It's an Australian mountain doodle. Okay. And it's kind of a mini Australian. It's a mini. So it's only like 25-ish pounds right now. And it's probably about full grown. But what's so funny is that the dog now comes with us everywhere. So I get it a plane ticket. Like we have to make sure I get it a plane ticket. We have to make sure the hotel is pet friendly, right? Everywhere we go and stuff. And so now this dog has been to Miami, Jacksonville, Naples, New Orleans. Okay. The dog is like 4 months old. Okay. And like it's fixing to go to Charlotte, Carolina, and Boise, because I have to do like a two speech trip, from Charlotte to Boise the first week of January. But when we got to Miami the last time, the SkyTrain was out, and our gate was the very last one, and it's like a mile, and we landed at like 11 o'clock or something at night. Okay, so I have to walk, and so I have to walk with the dog and the carry in one hand, which is like 30 pounds, and then my daughter has this book bag that has like literally 50 toy horses in it, and it feels like 2 bowling balls. So I got one hand with the toy horses bag and one hand with the dog with my book bag on the back. And I'm walking through the airport 11 o'clock at night, tired as can be, walking like a mile because the sky train's out. We finally get to our baggage claim, wrong baggage claim. We got to go out of the airport all the way to the other side of the airport. And mind you, it's midnight. It was a pretty wild scene, but
wow.
you know, it's memories at this point.
Yeah.
Do you get nervous still going on for big presentations? Is there a moment before you walk on?
I think so.
I've done plenty of shows myself, but I have unbelievable stage fright. Like I will freak myself out 5 minutes before I go on.
There's a version of it. It's not like it was. There's a version of you know, that nervousness before I talk. I mean, I just did one in New York and Manhattan. It was a pretty big crowd, and right outside. So right after I'm talking, I'm moderating a panel, and on the panel is Ryan Serhant, Bess Freeman, Mauricio Maskey, James Haber, what's her name, Stephanie Birkin, and Leo Pereira, right? Like literally the who's who of real estate. They're literally like right there outside the door listening to my talk before they do the panel. So I had like the who's who like watching me talk, and then I had like this massive crowd at the event, and I'm doing like this 10 minute keynote on why the next 90 days are the most crucial of your entire career. And so and I'm in a suit, which I never wear. So like, yeah, you know, this is a little, this is different, you know? So definitely there's situations.
Do you have a ritual now?
It's almost like ripping a Band-Aid off. I'm just ready for them to say my name so I could get up there and start talking. Because once I start talking, it is over. Like once I start talking, then all that goes away. Yeah. I'm connecting with the crowd. We're laughing, we're crying, we're everything. So
I feel like that's true. It's the waiting. The waiting is what gets you nervous. But once you start to feel the energy, it's such a different experience. Yeah.
And then you look out in the crowd and you see how people are so intensely listening and they're really into what you're saying, and they're kind of, you know, on the edge of their seat and really just on every last word. It all of a sudden you feel like you're on top of the world. You know, all that fear kind of goes away because you know that you're giving these people what they need, what they want, what they came for. And so then you start to feel a little bit better about the situation. But yeah, leading up to it's the worst part.
All right, you're going on stage for some big show and you can choose any song for your walkout song. Like, what are you going to choose?
Oh my gosh. I think Jay-Z, choose one. Choose one. Yeah.
I love it. All right, we're going to take a turn because we're running out of time here. I imagine you giving away coaching for free in 2017 is based off of, you know, sort of servant leadership. You want to give back. You've mentioned that all the way through. Even as a child, you know, you were dreaming about how I can give it all back in the end. So was there a deal or an agent or even a client that you worked with as you were getting yourself out of, you know, the crash and getting yourself back into production that is a standout? Like this is a story I can't believe that actually happened, and it changed how I look at clients or how I look at agents.
In the beginning, I was focused on just getting people to sign contracts and doing deals. I really wasn't focused on the people at all. I was just focused on getting the deal done. And they weren't really interested in beginning a relationship with me because I was selling their condo. They were making $200,000-300,000, and they weren't going to rebuy into that market. They just made $200,000 in a year, and they're gone. They took their money and ran, and I never heard from them again. They weren't going to do any more business in that market, and I didn't need them because I could call 10 more people and find somebody that wanted to make $200,000 a day and make another $30,000 off the commission. So I didn't build relationships. So when I lost everything, I realized it's about relationships. That's the moat that weathers any kind of market storms. That's what creates the business that kind of builds the root system that no market can really, you know, take it out. It can fluctuate it a little, but it can't demolish it down to zero. Because I realized closings happen every day for the rest of our lives, regardless of market conditions. So I took all that, and then I started having different conversations with my clients. And I would have conversations that as if they were family. And there were these moments where I realized that they realized I cared about them more than just a deal, and that I realized they cared about me more than just a real estate agent, and we were kind of like really creating this bond. And I knew that I was onto something. And there were several of those moments in the very beginning stages, as I closed my first couple of deals coming back, that showed me that I was on the right track, and that this is the path, this is the way, this is how you build a massive business, is repeats and referrals, but keeping the new business coming as well, but compounding the repeats and the referrals up to the point that you're making the amount of money you want to make. So, and I remember too, that second deal, I closed 2 deals on the same day when I came back. It was 2 deals on the same day. One was like 4 something and the other was like 2 something. They closed on the same day. I had to borrow $500 from my dad the week before because I ran out of all my oil rig money. I needed $500 just to make it through. He let me borrow $500. I closed those 2 deals that next week, and then the rest is kind of history. But that girl that closed one of those deals, she called me back like in 2019 or 20 or 21.
Is it the before times or the after times? Before
it was after I retired. So it was after 22 when she called back. So she was the first deal I did coming back in 08, in May of 08, May 31st of 08. I closed 2 deals on the same day. And one of those deals, that girl called me back like in 2023 to sell that condo. And so that was why. Because it's all about the experience that you give clients during the deal.
Yeah.
If you give them the kind of experience that they feel like is going to be hard to replace, they'll never use another agent.
Yeah.
And so my model was a very simple weekly email to my entire database on the same day of the week forever. And that was the glue that kind of held everything together, where no one would ever forget me. And so then I could compound relationships at scale and with a very simple process.
Yeah.
And so that weekly email was the thing. And so the weekly email, she continued to know who I was. She continued to see my stuff. And then 15 years later, she calls me back to sell the condo, which I had to give it to my dad because, I don't do sales anymore. He's still doing it. But yeah, it's, that was the moment that clicked when I realized through different conversations with prospects that I was on the right track.
I'm going to get big for a minute. This is something that I do often, but I draw from really big ideas and then try to bring them down to a precipice or a really small finite point. And the first big decision that I made as a kid was to leave and join the military. So I became a U.S. Marine. And what's notable about the Marines is not only are they well trained, but what sets the Marine Corps apart is the culture, and specifically one part of the culture. It comes down to trust, and that the unwritten law and the known thing between any Marine, anybody who meets that, hey, you're a Marine. Oh, I understand this one thing about you is that there is this, this trust between Marines. If you're sleeping, I'm going to make sure you don't die. When I'm sleeping, I'm going to trust you to make sure that I don't die. And I've drawn that trust, that trust virtue through my entire profession. I've only surrounded myself with people who I trust. I think trust it's sort of easy to say it's important, but I don't know that people spend enough time thinking or breaking down what trust actually is for them. And now I've come forward into building this thing for Rayse. And this is one of the hardest things that we're trying to do, is to provide a conduit between agent and client, the most important relationship in this industry. The only thing that matters, in my opinion, is what happens between an agent and their client. And it's the most important thing for a client. And everything that you just described and everything that I imagine what a client is looking for is all rooted in trust. How can I trust this person? What do I do how can this person help me trust them? Because this is the most important thing I'm going to go through my life. Tell me how trust manifests itself in, one, your coaching, maybe some personal anecdotes as well. But ultimately, how do you explain trust building to agents in the future?
Well, you got to have the right intentions, number one, right? So when you lift the hood and you pull back the curtain, if you're not doing this for the right reasons, then you're not going to build trust, because people are going to see right through whatever it is you're doing. And you might win, you might have some wins, you're not going to lose completely. I mean, I know guys that have the wrong intentions who, are successful, all right, but you're gonna have more distrust than you have trust if you're not doing it for the right reasons, right? It's hard to really build anything massive and great if you don't have a lot of mostly trust. Yeah, I mean, even the most trusted people out there, there are people that don't trust them. You're not going to win everyone, right?
Of course.
It all comes down to your intentions, and then you lining up who you are, right? Your intentions, lining that up with how you're articulating conversations with your prospects. So what happens is most agents come to the business and they don't know what to say or how to do things. So they take the mainstream training and coaching, and then they use those scripts and they use those methodologies, and those methodologies don't line up with who they are as a person. They actually care about people. They actually want the best for people. They are the hardest working people out here. They really want to see the client achieve their goals and dreams and all that stuff. But the processes and the methodologies and the scripts they're using makes the agent sound totally opposite of that. It's like, hey, Mr. Seller, you don't know me. I don't know you, but will you sell your house so I can make some money? Right. That's how we're coming across. That's how we're coming across. But that's not who we are. But that's all we know because that's all we've been taught. And so the objective is to realize this and to work towards trying to line up who you are with how you're articulating to your clients. See, when you can line those two things up, if you can line up who you are as a person, your authentic self, with the way that you communicate to your people, that's when you can start to build real trust, because just like people can see through you if you don't have the best intentions, they can also see through you that you have the greatest intentions. And it's very easy to see, like you guys can probably spot them a mile away. Somebody who is real and somebody who wants the best for people and somebody who is fake and doesn't want the best. We can see these people a mile away, especially in today's world where we've been exposed to so many real and fake people through social media. It's kind of easier to spot these people than it used to be. Therefore, it's like in this world, it's a lot easier to win if you are on the up and up, if you do have the best intentions for people. Like if people are scared to make calls, people are like, I'm scared to make calls. I'm like, okay, well, what do you do all day? Like, what do you do? They're like, I get up at, these random times. I was like, okay. I was like, do you go to the gym? Sometimes I go to the gym sometimes. I'm like, okay. They're like, what does this have to do with making calls? I'm like, I'll tell you in a minute. So the thing is that you tell yourself that I'm going to go to the gym, and then you don't go to the gym, or you tell yourself I'm going to go to the gym at this time and don't go to the gym at that time. And so you lie to yourself. And so when you lie to yourself so many times, you know every lie you've told because you're the one that told it to yourself. And so you've told yourself so many lies that you don't trust yourself, and subconsciously you're not trustworthy, and you feel like you can't be trustworthy to other people if you're not even trustworthy to yourself. So it's like, why even make calls? Because I'm going to let them down. I said, the reason why you're not making calls is because you don't even believe in you.
Right.
And so what you got to do is start with yourself, and everything you say that you're going to do it so that you prove to yourself that you're trustworthy to yourself. And if you can do that, then you can start to realize that you can be trustworthy to other people. And now you have this newfound confidence that will force you to go out there and make calls and meet new people and try to find clients and do business. It's the same thing with what we're talking about when it comes to how to build trust. It all starts with you. You gotta do what you said you were going to do every single time, the exact way you said you were going to do it. You got to have integrity within yourself about what you told yourself you're going to do. And if you can't do that, then it's going to be hard to build trust in other people because deep down you're untrustworthy.
There's so much consumer mistrust in this industry. Do you think we can turn it around?
I don't think we have to. I think that each individual agent has to learn the skill of developing trust and worry about their own business. What the overall consumers think or believe about the industry as a whole has nothing to do with your relationship with each individual client. I don't think we need to worry about trying to reverse what the general public thinks about us. I think each individual agent needs to worry about what each individual client thinks about them, and just focus on one client at a time, right? And just have the best intentions, do the right thing. When you tell them you're going to do something, do it. When you tell yourself you're going to do something, do it every single time. And so I think that's where it starts.
I mean, even if we were going to step into your world a little bit deeper, I'm not a big social person, but I respect it massively. But what I love is following the trends. And right now, the trend, both with the oversaturation of stuff out there and the influence of AI, there's this rebound of all stories becoming ultra human and really becoming real as much as possible, which I think you can relate to. It seems to be a lot of your principles as we've been researching your background.
Yeah, if you look at my content, a lot of it's low effort content. Just film it right on my phone and post. And so the reason why that content does really well is because it's real. It's not highly produced. It wasn't scripted out. It wasn't, edited and cut and chopped up and taken out of context. It's real. It's authentic. It's raw. And, that kind of content does extremely well if you're saying things that matter to the people.
Yeah.
That's the next problem is people are saying the same stuff they've heard over and over again, or they're saying very, shallow ideas. They're not really sharing anything that makes people say, when people watch your content, the response you want is for people to watch your content and say, wow, I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
That's the response that you want people to have whenever they see a piece of your content. And if you can do that, then you can be really successful, on social media. But again, everything's content. The words that you tell yourself in your head is content. The words that you say on a phone call, private phone call that's not recorded is content. Everything that you have in your life was created by words that you told yourself in your head and others. Your house, your car, your bank account, your spouse, your everything that you have, it was created by words. Words matter, and all matter was made of words.
It's no mystery that you've jumped in on this crazy mission that Rayse has. What were you most excited about in Rayse, and how do you think Rayse is going to help, build trust?
So it's just the transparency side of it, that's much needed. The gap between what customers think we do and what we actually do is so massive. And Rayse was the first company that I saw that solved that problem. And so that's why I was pretty excited about it, that the next chapter of the industry is going to really focus on a lot of transparency. And so, what they do in terms of taking the customer through the transaction in real time so that they know what agents are doing for them throughout the transaction, the closing report, etc. Also, the presentations, right? The presentations going into the deal to show what past clients went through in their journeys is just super important. So, from all aspects, I was excited because transparency, I think, is going to be a big piece of this next chapter of the industry as we get into the AI era. And, whatever happens, we're fixing to see a surge. Next year is going to be a little bit of a rebound, and it's going to kind of stair step back up to that 5+ million existing home sales. We're going to get back to rocking and rolling in the marketplace. It's going to be a new world because we're going to go into this next cycle with more technology. I mean, the AI that I've seen lately on customer communication, voice to voice, even it's hard to tell it's not AI. It's advanced so fast.
Yep.
And it's going to be really interesting to kind of see how the whole thing plays out. But transparency, I believe, is going to be a big part of that, and that's why I'm really excited about Rayse.
So, Ricky, we've got this series here where we talk to agents from all over the country and ask them, like, what's the wildest thing that's happened to you when you've been working with a client, something in real estate. We've heard all sorts of things. There's like endangered species in the house.
Yeah, ex-wife hiding in the closet.
Somebody went on a tour and his ex-wife was hiding in the closet of the house that he was in.
Yeah.
What's the wildest thing that's happened to you while you were working with a client?
We've had some pretty wild negotiations and stuff. As far as showing property and stuff, down here is like, we have more tourists, like I said, than Hawaii, and it's beach. And so there were a couple of showings during the spring break weeks. Yeah, there was a couple of showings that were a little wild. Walking in on like just bodies everywhere, it's just like, okay, we're going to come back another time,
What does the Ricky look like in 3 years? Are you still going to be on tour? Is the tour going to be a primary focus and you guys are now traveling the globe? Are you still going to remain focused on residential real estate? Are you moving out bigger? Like maybe 5 years? What's the big dream?
It's pretty simple. I'm gonna stay where I'm at. I'm just gonna become the biggest name in the space when it comes to residential real estate, market analyst, coach of real estate agents. I'm just gonna become the biggest name. There's only a couple of names above me now, but we just bought a conference, the conference in New York that we just did. We met with them the next day. We bought the conference. It's going to be an ARA, American Real Estate Association conference. It's massive. I'm going to be a face of the conference. I'm also going to, I'm this close to starting to become, go on like Fox Business, CNBC, things like that, to talk about the market as things happen, breaking news type stuff, and work towards becoming like one of their, main real estate, guys that come on frequently to talk about the market, etc. I'm interviewing some of the biggest names on my podcast now, like the most famous people in the industry and outside the industry. And that, when you mix it all together, the TV interviews, the conferences, the big interviews for the podcast, just the organic growth of my socials right now. When you just combine all that, there's no doubt in the world I'll be the biggest name in real estate, over the next 3 years. And that's really just the goal, just to become the biggest name in the industry, and then just help companies like Rayse and Realty Co. and American Real Estate Association and Breezy and all these incredible companies that are coming up, just help them, gain market share, and so that we can do good. When I make a decision, I don't make it based on the money. There's conferences that ask me to speak all the time that I turn down, even though they're paying me a whole lot, because it doesn't line up with my mission, which is to reduce the failure rate in the real estate industry one agent at a time.
Yeah.
And when you have a mission statement, it's easy to make decisions, because you're making, you make the decision based on, okay, does this support this mission or does it not? And if it doesn't, I don't do it. But if it supports the mission is the only thing that matters at this point. So I just want to use that influence to continue that mission and help reduce that massively crazy failure rate. And one thing that I'm working on is to get into the pre-license classes and to become part of the curriculum around teaching agents before they even get licensed that this is a business. You don't need to memorize the Civil Rights Act or the Fair Housing Administration. You don't need to know how many cubic inches are in an acre. What you need to know is you need to be pre-upped on the fact that this is a business. This is not W-2. You're going to get paid on performance, not just to show up. And here's some things that you should be preparing for to actually hit the ground running and, make some headway, get to your first deal as quick as possible, and really create some curriculum that we include in the pre-licensing process that helps these agents kind of know beforehand what they're getting into. Because a lot of agents just get licensed, and they get licensed, and they're like, okay, what now? Like, this is nothing like I thought it was going to be. This is, and that's why I think we see a lot of failure. So there's a lot of things I'm trying to work on, that I am working on, that's going to really do good for that goal.
All right. Well, I think we've come to the end. This is where we're going to start ramping up Jay-Z's and your walkout song at the end.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Yeah, that's happening. That's how we end these things. Is there anything you want to say as you're walking out and dropping the mic?
I used to walk out to my fights and just kind of do like little circles with my hand like that. I go out there, I point at the guy I'm going to fight and be like, you are dead.
I love it. All right. Ricky, thank you so much for your time today. This has been awesome. I love all the stories. Everything that we do here at Rayse is about storytelling. So thank you for the personal anecdotes and the support and all the fun stories. And we'll have to do it again. Tom didn't even get a chance to tell you about his fighting. He's also into super MMA and all that stuff. Nice. So we have lots of parallels.
I've been fighting for about 16 years. I didn't have a chance to talk to you about that. But yeah, a lot of kickboxing.
Cool. Yeah, I was more jiu-jitsu, but I got into the MMA, so I did a bunch of kickboxing and karate and stuff, to prepare for those fights.
Yeah, the MMA is such a different experience. I've done like 2 or 3 of those, and those are nuts.
It's fun.
Definitely. But yeah, next time.
Cool.
Thanks so much, Ricky.